Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of, or the first episode rather, of Rebuilding Stockport, the analysis days. Yes, we're finally here. So, obviously, these videos, in case you don't already know, is essentially me just going through the stats. We look at the team stats, the player stats, and then we look at the individual stats for the players, looking at every minutia for each different position to compare players to see how they've done, who's done well, who hasn't, see if there's any gems, who could potentially do next season, who we should potentially get rid of, all that sort of stuff. See if there's any holes. It's fun, I promise. Right. So, and if you do like these videos and you do want me to keep making them, do be sure to drop a like on them anyway, just to sort of let me know that you actually do want me to keep making these videos and I'm not just wasting an hour. Because that's essentially what this is. This is about an hour long, probably, almost like a podcast, but with visual aids, like a PowerPoint presentation. So, without any further ado, let's get into today's video. So, I've recorded this directly after the previous two videos. So I've been recording all morning. I'm starting to feel a bit lightheaded. I've had some toast and we're good to go again. I might have to get a coffee midway through. Right, so stats. We're going to start off with the team detailed stats and just go through, see where we did well, see where we didn't. So possession-wise, only Hereford managed to outpossess us. And that seems like it was fairly close, to be fair. 56. Penalties taken. We had 7 penalties taken, and we actually scored every single penalty this year, as did Altrincham, to be fair. So that's nice to see. We're pretty accurate from the spot. I thought we'd missed a few, but it might have been in the cup or something. Headers won, Southport dominating that one. At this point, it's hard to know if we should be at the top of some of these or not, because, you know, generally, you're going to win more headers if you're down towards the bottom of the league because you're going to be getting a lot of crosses faced against you and you're going to be heading them away. But it's nice to see us so far up on this one anyway. Headers won ratio, that concerns me a little bit. The fact that we're so low on headers won. 58%, because you look at the teams around us. Darlington are down here with Blythe as well. So, actually, Hereford are the only ones that are really streaking away from the rest of us down here. So, perhaps it's not the end of the world. It might be because we're hitting a lot of long balls to someone like Mbo. Perhaps with a player there that isn't quite so... what I might do, for example, say we don't have Mbo next season. I might be tempted to play it out from the back a little bit more and build up the play rather than just hitting it long straight away and just potentially giving the ball back to our opponents. Maybe playing it out from the back a little bit more with a slightly more diminutive striker, more suited for a deep line forward role. Might be a better idea. I don't know. That's my plan anyway. Yellow cards. Wow, 82 yellow cards for York City. Only 34 for Alfreton Town. We're somewhere in the middle. Could do with a few less, perhaps, but I guess, you know, you sometimes have to take them. York City, 7 red cards. No wonder my God, they've bullied their way in. We've had 2, to be fair. We had one for Palmer, and I can't remember who the other one was. Nope, I actually can't remember who the other one was. But Ashley Palmer definitely did have one. Altrincham and Blythe didn't get any at all, right? Form isn't that important. This stuff isn't that important at all because, you know, it just isn't. 91 goals scored, 7 more than FC United. No wonder FC United had the top scorer in the league. They had second most goals scored, 84 goals scored in the league. But they must have conceded an absolute buttload of goals. Probably one of the worst defences in the league too, which does kind of ring true in the fact that we beat them 4-1 on the opening day of the season, if you remember. So there's that. Oh, look at that. 22% cross completion. These are the stats I want us to be dominating, and my goodness are we. Our wingers and our wingbacks, or fullbacks rather, doing a great job there and dominating. And this is, I think, one of the reasons we've done so well this year. Completing those crosses, superb. Crosses completed, 405. That is insane. Over 400 crosses completed this year. Nolan Bowe's definitely helped with that, but as have Souza and Stevenson. It's undeniable. Goals from corners. Darlington, okay. So Darlington actually outdid us. So this is an interesting one for me. The goals from corners have somewhat dried up a little bit lately. We were doing really well, and we had like 16 from our first sort of 30-something games. We've only scored 1 more in our last sort of 10 matches, so it's just dropped off a little bit, but still, 17 goals scored from corners this season is a very nice little situation. Direct free kicks, 2 goals from those, both the Duxbury goals, lovely old job. Could do with a few more maybe, but we wouldn't be able to get that many more. Goals from indirect free kicks as well. Look at that. Only 4. So that's an area that I think we definitely do need to exploit a little bit more. We could definitely get towards maybe 10 of those, and it would maybe just get us a few extra points each season. So definitely need to look at the indirect free kick setup and see if there's a better option than what we're currently doing. We've only scored 4. There's definitely room for improvement there. Pass completion, second most in the league. I thought 68 looked quite low, but I guess at non-league level it's quite good. Hereford definitely were a bit of a ball-playing team at this level. Not that they really showed that against us, to be fair, but they have got the best possession and the best pass completion up there as well, along with Blythe and Darlington, so that kind of makes sense. Passes completed, yeah, look at that. Hereford miles out in front with passes completed, nearly 2,000 more passes than anyone else in this league. They've actually tried to play football, and fair play to them for that. Chances created, now this is bizarre. Chester, chances created. 124 chances created, and they came 15th in the league. Hereford came 5th with that, but we were only down in 6th, joint 6th, or joint 5th rather, with Southport. So if we could create a few more chances, good lord what we'd be able to do. And I think towards the second half of the season, we certainly were creating more. So that fills me with confidence. Shots on target ratio, the best in the league at 50%. I'd like to think that some of our players have got over 50% too, to hopefully help with that. Shots on target, 323 shots on target. FC United again up there. They really could have had a playoff push if they could just tighten up their defence a little bit. They could have been right in there with the playoffs. It's undeniable. I want to see how many goals they conceded, actually. Conversion rate, 16%. Was this on here before? I don't recall a conversion rate being on here. 14%, not bad. Could do with pushing it a bit higher. Again, FC United right up there. Fouls against, this one's not super important. Dribbles per game. Okay, so we're right up there with an average of 5. Blythe doing a decent job on that one too. I'm guessing it's players like Sousa and Stevenson that have attributed predominantly to that. Maybe Duxbury as well. Right, defensively, FC United conceded 77 goals this year. Guiseley, 94 goals they conceded. And we had the best defence in the league as well, with only 43 goals conceded in 42 matches. And I feel like it could have been closer to 30 if we just tightened up in the right areas at the right time. And, well, you know. Just looking at our defences, though, 3 goals conceded from corners, 1 from a direct free kick, and 6 from indirect free kick. So, free kick defending, definitely something we need to look at. But still, that's only, what, 10 goals conceded from set pieces this year. Could definitely bring that down a little bit more. But when you consider how many we scored, we got, what, 17 from corners. I don't know how many penalties we conceded as well, so I guess that counts as a set piece too. We had 2 indirect free kicks. That takes it to 19. 2 direct free kicks to 19, 4 indirects, that's 23, and like 7 penalties. I think that's 30 goals we've scored from dead ball situations this year. So that to me is a very good return, what I would like to have thought. Team conceded from corners. We've got the best record from corners in the entire... Oh my god, Guiseley conceded 28 times from corners this season. I'm guessing at least a few of those were against us, but that's not bad, actually, to be fair. The fact that it was the best in the league for defending from corners clearly shows to me that we can't really do much better than that. Conceded from direct free kicks, we had 1, which I believe was the one against Hereford. Up until that game, we'd not conceded a single direct free kick all season. Conceded from indirect, though, too low for me. I want to be up sort of around this kind of area. That's definitely something we need to look at, potentially. Clean sheets, only 11. Alfredton were very, very tight at the back. We had the best defence in the league overall, but that's because we didn't get thumped, basically, ever. We lost 1-0 to Southport, 1-0 to Boston, 2-1 to Altrincham, and we lost, I think, 2-0 to Kidderminster Harriers. And I think we only conceded 3 goals in a couple of occasions. We had a couple of 3-all draws in a weird spell earlier in the season. Fouls made, that's quite a lot of fouls. If we could cut down on that one, that might help quite nicely. Tackles won, not interested in the number of tackles won overall. I'm interested in the tackles won ratio. My lord, that seems remarkably high for everybody. But we're up in 5th, I suppose. That seems incredibly high. Penalties conceded. The least penalties conceded as well with 2. FC United conceded 9 penalties. And York obviously conceded 9 penalties because they can't stop fouling people. Average attendance, by far the highest in the league at 3,700, which is just beautiful. Average attendance by capacity, though, only 35%. And FC United doing quite well there. Hopefully next season we can get crowds of close to 5,000 in the National League, which will definitely help us with the money, if nothing else. Stadium sellouts. Nobody sold out their stadium, not even close. Highest attendance was 4,700, and I think that was for the game against Blythe, which won us the title. So you can understand why the fans would want to come to that. Any below 1,000? Not quite. Alfredton were pretty close to it, though. Lowest attendance. Oh my goodness. That is astonishing. 167 people turned up for an Ashton United game. That is very, very bad. Yeah. Actually, who's got the lowest average attendance? Ashton United, I suppose. But that's still pretty piss poor. Lowest attendance. Wow, our lowest attendance was still over 3,000. Just dominant on that one. Net transfer spend. I guess we spent the most, really. And we do probably have the highest salary per annum in this league. Oh, no, we do not by even a... Wow. York and Kidderminster are spending so much more money than we are. And we're flying. There's a couple of secure teams. Hereford are secure financially, which is nice to see. We're okay. Need to look into that potentially later on. None are insecure, though. And how are these teams not insecure? York, they're spending 1.3 million a year on salary. They've actually spent 250 grand on players, too. That is astonishing. And that is all for that. Now, what I'm really interested in is the player detailed stats, to see if we've got any players that stand out. Appearances, it's pretty irrelevant, although Hinchcliffe has played in every single match for us this year, as have Darren Stevenson. So those two are the sort of ever-presents. They would have been substituted, apart from, obviously, Hinchcliffe. He'd have played every single minute. Games won, obviously loads of our players up there. Games lost, obviously loads of their players. Yellow cards. Harry Winter, 12 yellow cards. Dux and DeMeo both got 8 apiece. bit annoying, but there you go. Any players got more than one? Wow, a few players got sent off. York City had both David Ferguson and Josh Law sent off 2 times each. Sam Walker was sent off for us. Right, that was the other guy then. Which means that, yeah, Palmer was also sent off for us as well. Player of the Match awards, Kurt Willoughby got the most in the end, which is not inherently surprising. Stevenson got 9, and Bo got 5. Duxbury got 5, and so did DeMeo, so that's really nice to see. Distance covered per 90 minutes. Interesting, Finley Sinclair Smith's, I mean, he's just run away with it, hasn't he? Duxbury's up there too. DeMeo's got a roundabout in the midfield too, which is very nice to see. Average rating overall, Stevenson and DeMeo dominating there, along with Willoughby up at the top. Matt Jay's done well for Hereford too. And Bow in there too, Duxbury. Even Elliot Kebby down here in 17th. So both on one side of the winger, the defensive, the midfielder, the left back, the striker, the right side, and the decent. Headers won. Palmer, actually, no, 332. That's nice to see. Goals, I mean, no real surprise there. Darren Stevenson, 27 goals scored. Lovely old job. And Bo got 16 in the league, which is still very, very good when he played 30 games for us. So I'm pretty impressed with his actual output for us this season. It's not that far off, really, off of Darren Stevenson, who, of course, played a lot more games. So that's very nice. Average minutes per goal. When you look at that, he's not far off of that at all. I think if he'd played the whole season, he'd have getting 20-plus goals this year. Kurt Willoughby, though, he's in a league of his own. He's had the most shots by miles. That is undeniable. I wonder his conversion rate is not quite as good as Darren Stevenson and Bo up there too. Shots on target, 83 shots on target. Stevenson only 66 and Bo 58. No surprises there. Now, this is the thing I'm quite interested in. Eriko Souza, when he gets into his positions, 66% of his shots are on target, which is very nice to see. But Bo up there too with 63 and Stevenson at 63. No Kurt Willoughby. Oh, no, there he is, down at 61. So if he could have got his shots on target a little bit more, he'd probably have even more bloody goals. Conversion rate, here we go. So Darren Stevenson, 25% conversion rate. Kurt Willoughby up there as well. Stevenson really is an absolute gem. I don't know how well he's going to do in the next league, and I think he could do all right for us in the National League, but we will have to keep an eye out as a potential option on that left for someone to maybe come through and replace him, but not too soon, you know? Stevenson and Hinchcliffe, of course, have been on the pitch for all 91 of our goals. Or did we score more goals than that? I can't remember, actually. Penalties, 5 out of 5. And Bo's got 3 out of 3. I swear he missed a penalty. It must have been a cup game where he missed a penalty. Oh, I know what it was. Wasn't it in the Altrincham game that Bo missed a penalty? In the cup earlier this season. Right. Duxbury got 11 assists, so not quite the best in the league, but it was certainly up there, and he's had a great year still. Key passes, Conor DeMeo, 92 key passes for Conor DeMeo this year, just completely dominating that role. I'd like to think that Jack Payne would be up there too, but of course he's only really played less than half a season because of course Elliot Osborne and Gutteridge and lots of other players have occupied that role. But for a player like Conor DeMeo, 92 key passes is astonishing. Chances created overall, and Bo's created 15 chances. I would like to see a few more chances created. We're doing well at scoring goals without actually creating that many chances. Pass completions, Jack Byrne is up there with 85%, but DeMeo also has 80%. Technically, Gutteridge has 81 from what I can see, but I don't think he's played enough games or committed enough passes to actually be on here. So he would be a little bit higher if he was on here, potentially. Cross completion, Elliot Kebby, 31% for Elliot Kebby. That is ridiculous. And I don't think even the likes of Bruno Bridges can even compete with. I'm just going to have a sip of my drink. Dribbles per game. Souza, obviously up there with 1.29, but Stevenson isn't that far behind. That's what these guys are for. But Jarrett Rivers, my giddy aunt. He does have that 12 dribbling. He might be an option we could potentially look at for next season, maybe. 25 years old. Plays for Blythe. It depends on if they go up or not. If they don't, he might be someone we could potentially pinch. Offsides. None of our players offside because obviously we play a deep line forward, so we don't really play on the last man very often. I imagine we've caught a lot of teams offside, though, that is for sure. Team conceded. Jordan Keane has only been on the pitch for 30 goals conceded, and Bo only 31, so he definitely does a job for us when he's in the team. Tackles. Nobody up there at all. Mistakes leading to goals. Hinchcliffe has made a couple. Yeah, yes he has. Unfortunately, he definitely has. Most mistakes overall. Duxbury, he's pushed up so high, I'll forgive him for making a few mistakes occasionally. Key tackles. Ashley Palmer with 15. That's nice to see him up there. Key headers. Anyone at all. Darren Stevenson has won 56 key headers. He's actually won more headers than Nolan Bow has. How tall is Darren Stevenson out of interest? He is 6 foot, which would explain how he's able to do that at the back post, but he doesn't have great heading. His jumping reach isn't fantastic either. He is quite tall, though. So I guess there's that. Interceptions made. I would like to see, yeah, Palmer again, dominant. Just absolutely dominant. Headers 1 ratio. Interesting no one's on here at all. I guess... I'm surprised Schmoll isn't on here. I really am, actually. Maybe he's just slipped off a little bit, which is a shame. He's definitely attempted more than 27 headers, that's for sure. Shots blocked. No one on there, of course. Goalkeepers, right. So Hinchcliffe conceded 43 goals, whereas Matthew Campbell only conceded 35. The most clean sheets, Hinchcliffe got 11 compared to Sam Ramsbottom with 19. Saves held, not on there at all. Shouldn't be too surprised about that. Saves parried. Hinchcliffe, he is on there. Nice to see him there at all. Right, so now what we're going to do is go over to the squad screen. Unfortunately, we do still have a load of these guys on loan. As you can see, look at these guys. Felix Nemecha, he's wanted by, he's wanted by Stoke City. And he's wanted by Stoke just after everyone. Oh, they want... Oh, no, Yeovil, of course, don't they? It's, yeah, see, this is the kind of players. Like, Felix Mecha, I would love to bring this guy in. Just because, I mean, look at this guy. He is well above this level, but I bet you won't even consider talking to us. No, you see. But then why come on trial, mate? Like, it's just one of these things. I don't think it will work with Magoma either. No, not interested. The only one I think was really interested is Jaden Barrett-Thompson, who, of course, is with us. What about Brooklyn Lions Foster? See if he's changed his mind? No, not even interested for a reason. He's just not bothered. Olayinka was actually prepared to enter talks with us, but he wanted a shitload of money, which I might consider coming back. But my problem is, I don't want to play him as a deep line. He's got terrible vision for a deep line playmaker. Like, that's really bad for the ultimate playmaker in the team. And as a box-to-box midfielder, his long shots are poor. And I don't know about... And his tackling... I feel like maybe we could go after Olayinka, provided he'll even talk to me now. Because obviously... And there's Nathan Guro, was the guy from Middlesbrough that I was looking at as well. But he just has such poor stats in quite key... Like, determination 1, flair 1. I know it's not that important for a central defender to have flair. But the determination of 1... does bother me a little bit. He's got really poor technical attributes, and he is the most no-nonsense you could possibly think of. He's not particularly brave either. His aggression's not super high. I'm not a fan. I just, something about this guy does not strike me as great. He's got some good defensive stats, but everything else is just not good. Not good at all. Very, very poor strength and stamina as well. So we'd have to get him off all the time. I just don't think it's a worthwhile signing because he wanted a lot of money, like £800 a week. So, yeah, anyway, moving over to what I was actually going to do. So, what we're going to do with these, I'll just show you what I normally do. I'm going to have to import some of these views. So, let's see what we got here. So, we're going to start at the back with Goalkeepers Analysis. So, where is Goalkeeper Analysis? All right. So, what we do is we bring in the Goalkeeper Analysis, and then we'll filter it so we only show goalkeepers. We want all positions off, and we want to hide players on loan or on trial. Not on loan or on trial. We want loanees to show up, but you know what I mean? So we'll hide players not at the club because we don't need those. Right, okay. So we have no real comparisons to do with Ben Hinchcliffe at the moment. This is all the stuff I could really think of to put in this one, apparently, when I was setting this one up. So 50 appearances this year. At least it does show the stats from all competitions. Conceded less than a goal a game. A couple of mistakes leading to goals, which does worry me a little bit. His average rating overall wasn't fantastic. Ormerson, is he younger? He is, and he's leaving soon. I just don't think that Ormerson's worth keeping, and I think that Ben Hinchcliffe probably could end up being a backup next season if I can find us a better goalkeeper, because I don't really want a goalkeeper making 2 mistakes leading to goals each season. Really, that should be none. Like, that's bad. It really is. I'm trying to think of what the second one was. The first one, we all know what that was. It was in the Altrincham game where he just parried it straight into their path. But he must have done something else dodgy at some point as well. So normally, if we've played other games, obviously you'll have more options here available so you can see. So we'll move on from goalkeepers straight away into wing-backs or, like, you know, right-backs. I said it as wing-back analysis. Or did I? Where is it? Full-back. Full-back analysis. That's the one. So... imported. Right, let's get the the fullbacks on here so we can take a little gander at these guys now. So we want defenders, we want to exclude the centre defenders and get these guys like that. So we've had a few players that have actually played games for us in these positions this year to compare. So players that have played minutes. Really, Cowan is irrelevant. Smalley, Gibson, Palmer, these guys not relevant to what we're talking about at the moment. Obviously. Widowson, I don't think he's really played enough minutes either for me to really be talking about him that seriously. Mantak's not made a single start. 21 sub appearances, and they mostly would have been as a right winger. So really what we're doing, Duxbury, we just want to see how well he's done, and we want to compare Kebby and Bridges for their outputs, basically, in the games that they've played. That way we can sort of see how they're developing and all that jazz. I'm just going to move ability to this side, because I think, there we go, so we can see it a bit more easily. Because these two are clearly the most talented players there, and Bridges is near here, but he's got that potential, which is kind of what I'm most interested in, as does someone like Sam Gibson. But again, he's yeah, he had some other things that I was a little bit perturbed about. The fact that he's got not particularly good dribbling, plus he's inverted, and I could play him on the other wing, I suppose, but there were some things about him that I wasn't particularly fond of, like one flair for a fullback. I kind of want a bit more than that. But anyway, so looking at the actual comparisons, assists-wise, Scott Duxbury's got 16, Kebbie's got 7, and Bridges has 1. That's fine, but we're looking at more to do with their output per minute, so to speak, or per 90 minutes. So assists per 90 minutes, Duxbury is the king with 35. But Bridges and Kebbie are basically evenly matched. Kebbie with 0.17 and Bruno Bridges with 0.16. That is actually pretty damn good that Bridges is keeping up with someone like Elliot Kebbie at his age of 18 years old. So that's quite interesting. Chances created per 90 minutes. Bruno Bridges, he's actually created more chances than anyone else in this role. Kebbie down at 1.12 and Duxbury at 0.15, but Bruno Bridges twice that. So a real creative spark it seems he has. I think it's because when he links up with Sousa, he often finds those balls in behind for Eriko Sousa that sometimes Kebbie doesn't always quite do. So Bridges is actually winning that category. Very interesting. Pass completion. Kebbie at 67, Duxbury 66, Bridges 64. It's a little bit lower, but it's not that much lower to the point where you're like, oh no, he's not doing a very good job there. For a youngster of only 18, he is again keeping up with the pace of the players above him. Kebbie does outdo him slightly though, which is quite important. Passes completed per 90 minutes. Kebbie, Bridges is still slightly lower than those two, but he's still not negligibly lower. He's not like so far off the pace to the point where you feel like, oh, he's just not really cut out for this. He's only slightly lower than Dux and Kebbie, and you know, maybe he's missing the occasional pass, but we'll see how many key passes per 90 minutes. Again, quite important. So Bridges with a 1.78 key passes per 90 minutes, ahead of Duxbury and ahead of Kebbie again. So what I'm kind of figuring out from this so far is that Bridges is completing less of his passes overall, as you can see from the lower pass completion and the less passes per 90 minutes completed. However, the passes he is making are leading to more chances. Quite simply, double the number of chances from his passes than Kebbie. And also, the number of key passes is more than Kebbie too. Twice that again. So I think he's just a more creative player on that right-hand side and might be able to get us more going forward. But I'm interested in his defensive stats too, as we'll see moving further through this, because that is very important too. Dribbles per game, Duxbury king of that one too. Bridges a little bit lower this time. He's not the best dribbler of the ball at the moment, and I think that's played out by the fact that he only has 3 dribbling. So perhaps why he is creating more passes is that he's not running with the ball so much and is just playing the ball instead of, he's letting the ball do the work rather than trying to run with it, which I think means he might not get caught out of the back quite so much. So maybe a potential option for him would be to runs with ball less, since he is dribbling pretty poorly. I mean, it's quite obviously so much poorer than the likes of Duxbury and Kebbie, because Duxbury's dribbling is what? 12, and Kebbie's dribbling is also 12. So that's where one area where he really does suffer. But he's made up for it in other areas, so that's pleasing to me. Shots on target, not really that important. Crosses complete. Yeah, so we want cross completion. This is really quite important. So Kebbie at 29, Bridges at 25, and Duxbury at 22. So Bridges again only slightly behind Elliot Kebbie on that one for a player that's a lot younger and has a lot more room to grow. So again, still very, very pleased with his development over the course of this year. Now, again, that's only from 10 substitute appearances and 4 starts, but it's still enough minutes, you know, 555 minutes for me to start looking into these stats and go, you know what, this guy might actually have something for us next year. Team conceded per 90 minutes. So we actually concede less goals with Pontes within the team, but only just. Kebbie and Duxbury very, very tight on that one too. Key tackles, well, we can see he's made a couple of key tackles, but we don't know how many that is per 90 minutes, so to speak. No mistakes leading to goals. Brilliant. Tackles won ratio. He's won every single tackle he's gone in for. Kebbie is up there too. Duxbury wins a few less, but he's played a lot more. Well, no, he's not played a lot more, but he has played more games. Interceptions per 90 minutes, yet again. Bruno Bridges dominating that one too. So the best interceptions. He's definitely looking like a very, very good player. It is undeniable. Like, it really, really is. This is why I do this, so you can see stuff that you wouldn't perhaps see just from watching the games. Like, what I've worked out from this is essentially that Bruno Bridges is a better passer. Is that the thing, though? Has he got better passing stats? His passing is 6 compared to Duxbury, whose passing is 9. And where's Kebbie, whose passing is 10. So that's very interesting. Has he got better vision, perhaps? Vision is 5. So why is Bruno Bridges doing so well there? He's got good leadership, he's got good determination. None of his stats stand out to me that suggest why he's so much better in those areas. That's very interesting. Let me just take a look at his pros and cons, since we're on the topic here, and we do want to take a closer look at old Bruno Bridges. So any pros? Good personality, pacey, high work rate, that might be useful for him too. Versatile, very physical player perhaps, fits in very well. England, he's not as consistent, although weirdly he seems to be pretty consistent so far. Well suited to regional Premier divisions. That's probably going to change fairly soon, I would have thought. So at the moment, not entirely sure why he's performing better. Maybe he wouldn't do if he was thrown in for more matches. I don't know. But right now, I'm content to suggest that we go with Kebby for next season with Bridges as a complete and obvious backup to him. And he'll get a lot of game time in the National League, I think, next year. Headers 1 ratio. Okay, so he's a little bit low on this one, presumably because he is shorter than the others. He is 5'10" compared to Kebby, who is 5'10", and Duxbury, who is 5'11". So, I mean, actually, that being said, he's only negligibly worse than Pontes, Oh, no, he's not, actually. He's a fair amount worse than Kebby. Maybe Kebby has better jumping reach. Jumping reach of 5 and heading of 5. Bridges, heading of 4 and jumping reach of 8. So, yeah, maybe something he could work on. Not the end of the world, though. We're often using our fullbacks as an attacking threat, and I'm confident that he's doing that. Totally happy with Scott Duxbury. He's only 23. He's kind of at his max potential at the moment, but I still think there's a long way to go for him. Distance per 90 minutes. Is one covering more distance than others? Yeah, Bruno Bridges actually covers more distance per 90 minutes too. He's getting up and down that wing. Maybe he's got better stamina or something? Stamina's 11 and natural fitness is 12. Whereas Kebby, natural fitness 10 and stamina 10. So he's slightly worse off, which maybe means that Pontes can go for longer. Plus, he's often playing in shorter bursts. So maybe over the full 90 minutes more regularly, he might drop down a bit. But I'm still pretty damn happy with that. So next year, Duxbury on the left, I do want to find ourselves a young, high potential, like 5-star potential backup for Duxbury. That way we've got an understudy on the left-hand side too, so Dux doesn't have to play every game, because he's going to get knackered. And on the right, I'm happy to go with Kebby and then Pontes as his understudy, because he's only going to get better if he keeps getting more game time. The fact that he's already playing for the Portuguese under-21s does make me think that this guy might have some serious potential, and we want to make sure we tie him down. I might try and extend his contract in the summer and get a big, like, 3-year extension clause in there or something, because I think it's going to be important for us. Right. I'm going to move over to the next one and have a little drink of my drink while we're at it. I know slurping noises can be annoying, but trying to edit this and actually try and find all that would be very, very difficult, as you can imagine. So we turn off these. We go central. And obviously we want to ignore Duxbury. The ones we're interested in are these three: Keane, Schmoll, and Palmer. I want to see who's performed the best out of those two, so we can... or out of those three, so we can see if it's worth trying to get someone else in, or whether Jordan Keane's actually done better than we thought. That's what this is essentially for. And if there's any glaring holes, then we can certainly try and find players that will fill those gaps. That's the other plan. Anyway, so minutes played. Well, Palmer's played 4,000 minutes, and Schmoll and Keane have played reasonably similar amounts. So pass completion, first up on the docket. Schmoll completes less of his passing. We knew that because he's got very, very bad passing stats, but it's not so bad. Like Keane and Palmer, 64 and 65. Yeah, sure, it's slightly lower, but we knew that going in, that that's not why we signed Tim Schmoll. We signed him for his bigness, essentially. Passes completed per 90 minutes. Yeah, it's going to be lower. We knew that as well. Team goals per 90 minutes. With these players on the pitch, it's almost identical for all of them, which is great. Key passes. Is any of them really making a few more passes? Right, this is interesting, right? Despite having the worst passing in the team, he's creating more key passes, presumably because he's lumping it a little bit more and actually finding space into the channel. Like, that is noticeably more key passes per 90 minutes. It just is. Team conceded per 90 minutes. Who's the best for that? So, Jordan Keane and Tim Schmoll at 9.94 and Ashley Palmer a tad higher, but it's negligible. Again, it's really, really close. So there's not too much we can read into that. Tackles 1 ratio, Keane at 100%. That seems so high. Are they changing what is considered to be a tackle this year? Because I feel like tackles 1 ratios used to be like in the 80s. But that's fine. 100% there. Palmer winning 95 and Schmoll 92. They're all reasonably good. Interceptions per 90 minutes. Ashley Palmer again. Jordan Keane much, much lower there. So Palmer and Schmoll clearly getting in and cutting off those passing lanes before the actual tackles need to be made. So Keane's good when he gets into the tackling position, but he's not good at cutting out the pass. Well, he's still all right, but he's not as good at cutting out the passes. Headers 1. And again, Schmoll 82%, Palmer 79%, Jordan Keane slightly less, but he has got a few goals from the back this season, so there is that to be said for him. At the moment, it's definitely looking like the Palmer and Schmoll partnership was the one we should have been going with. Because, like, Jordan Keane's not as good in the air, and he's not as good at intercepting things either, and he's committed a lot more fouls than Schmoll, in not that much more minutes. Covers a bit more ground. He's had 3 player of the match performances though, but I think that's possibly because he's scored goals in games. And you look at his last 5, I mean, look at his average rating over the season. They're all very, very close, but his last 5 games that he's played for us were very, very poor. So what I'm seeing from this is that Schmoll and Palmer were definitely the first choice partnerships. We were right to go with those two and Jordan Keane as a backup because he can play in the midfield if we needed him to. But I do think that we could definitely be on the lookout for another centre-back in the summer to partner Ashley Palmer next season. Because I don't know if we'd be able to get Tim Schmoll back. I'm not sure if I want to either. I think it might be best if we go to look for a player of our own. So maybe looking for another centre-back who's got sort of a 4-star kind of ability in that division, who's tall but not too slow either. Maybe some good anticipation, bravery, aggression, all the things we kind of want from a centre-back. That might be an area where I'm willing to splash some cash because I think that's a really important part of our team and it might help us stop conceding some goals because we've clearly made some mistakes in this area this season. It's undeniable. But I do think that Palmer is still going to be good enough for the job in the next division. But you never know. But I think centre-back, find a good solid centre-back is definitely something I'm interested in. Maybe one with a bit higher determination as well. I don't like players who have low determination stats. Maybe even a better personality to go with it. Maybe a fairly professional, something like that. I'd love a resolute. That's another thing I like about Bruno Bridges. Great personality. He's a really fun lad to get on with. Right, moving on. Not a lot to say about that one because we haven't got so many players to confirm. We've played a lot of the similar players in the roles. As we go further forward, we'll have a lot more comparisons to do. So, importing view. DM analysis, as we actually are playing a DM, a proper one. This is going to get a bit confusing because, of course, we've got a lot of players that can count in that. But what I'm only really interested in is Butterfield and Turnbull. I know Jordan Keane played there a couple of times. In fact, we can see how long he played there for. What was it? I can never remember what one it's on. Is it development? Tactics? Yeah, he played 4 times as a defensive midfielder this year and was not good in those games. I mean, no, you can see how much worse he was when he played there. So we don't want him playing there. We're mainly comparing Butterfield to Turnbull, what they gave to us when they were in the team at this level. That's what we're interested in right now. So, pass completion. I wish there was a way that you could just like hide players from this just temporarily until you change it, but that is not an option, I don't think. There's no real way of me doing that, I don't think. No. I wish there was just a bit more options that you could have on this. Can you actually... Is this match day rules? Or are you allowed to, like, change... I was hoping you could filter it by different competitions. That'd be really, really awesome. So we'll ignore that for now. But it's nice that we're actually at least getting all the games rather than just the league ones, which is the problem I always had last year when doing this, because it would miss out Champions League stuff when I was doing it with B67. So, pass completion. Turnbull, slightly higher than Butterfield, but again, it's negligible. That is not a big enough difference for me to be like, oh, he's the better player. It just isn't. Passes completed in that period. Butterfield, that's a few more. Like, nearly 38 compared to 32.5. That's a bit more of a jump. So he's completing more passes, just not quite as many on average. Key passes per 90 minutes. It's not super important that they're that creative, but again, slightly better Milan Butterfield, just a tad better than Turnbull, but I assume there's going to be some defensive aspects here too. 1 key tackle each. No mistakes leading to goals, which is good. Tackles 1 ratio, Butterfield 95, Turnbull 96. Very, very close. Interceptions. Right. Butterfield, 3.95 interceptions compared to Paul Turnbull's 2.41. That is a massive jump. Butterfield is cutting out a lot of those passing lanes far more effectively than Paul Turnbull. Now, is that because of his anticipation? Which is a 10. I'm trying to see. Composure, concentration, maybe a 10. Positioning is 11. Where does Butterfield really stand out in those positions? Anticipation is only 9. Work rate, perhaps? That could be potentially it too. He's got much, much better physicals as well, I believe, than Paul Turnbull does. Actually, it's not that bad. But clearly Milan Butterfield has something that is enabling him to make those interceptions. And it's no coincidence to me that we've played quite well while he's been in the team. Although his average rating... But, well, I'm not really interested in their average rating if I can see other things that make me go, right, there's a reason why they're in this team. That's what I'm really interested in. So, key headers... headers 1 percentage as well. Butterfield, 93 compared to Paul Turnbull's 77. So he might be cutting out a lot of stuff in the air. Does that count as an interception if he gets his head on it, perhaps? So that might be what it is. He's cutting out the passing lanes, the aerial passing lanes a bit more, and enabling to win the ball in the midfield without having to... I think he's just taking a little bit of pressure off of the centre-backs at times. Just by winning those headers, he's doing us a good service there. So perhaps what we need to look for in the summer, if we were to go after another... DM, and I think we kind of need one, really, because Turnbull's 30 soon, and he's not going to get any better than he currently is. we need to look for a defensive midfielder that's got good stats like Milan Butterfield, but also has that extra bit of height too. And if we find any flaws, then we can definitely look for that as well. Aerial challenge attempts per 90 minutes. Is he attempting a lot more? He's attempting about the same, which makes sense, but he's just far more effective when he is doing that. Team conceded per 90 minutes. So Paul Turnbull, again, ahead of Butterfield on that one, which means he's, we're conceding more goals with him in the team. Distance covered. Butterfield and Turnbull, he covers a little bit less ground too. I think that might be because he's not having to work so hard. He's just got slightly better stats in certain areas, I think. Now, it does bear noting that his average rating is lower than Paul Turnbull's over this period. So, weirdly, he's not getting the credit for it. But the fact is, his passing is fine. He's, key passing slightly more. He's tackling roughly the same. He's intercepting more, and he's much, much better in the air. So to me, that's what I want from our defensive midfielder. Cutting the passing lanes, providing the ball to players slightly more attackingly in tune with things to create the chances for us. And that's what we kind of want from a player like Milan Butterfield. And I could probably use him better from set pieces as well. Maybe getting him into a more ideal position to win some headers with that 6'4" frame of his. But I'm actually really pleased with that. And I do think maybe looking at a tall defensive midfielder in the off-season wouldn't be a bad idea as well, to really give us a bit more defensive solidity, to take the pressure off of the centre-backs. Because I don't know when Milan Butterfield signed for us. If we can actually look at his contract, we might be able to see exactly when he joined us. Started? No, we can't. Now, with these, obviously, we're comparing two different types of player with each other. But there's stats for all of them in that midfield, so we'll be fine for now. We want central midfielders. Boom. So what we're really doing... oh, dear, there's a lot of stats in here, obviously, because we're comparing a lot of players. So the players I'm mainly interested in. DeMeo, not really Turnbull or Keane. Jack Payne, Gutteridge. The annoying thing is, because we lost Osborne, I can't compare him. DeMeo's kind of just played in that role by himself, although Gutteridge has played there a few times. I'm content to say that Conor DeMeo is quite comfortably going to be with us next year and has done a good job. Like, that's undeniable. We'll still talk about him, but what we're mainly looking at is the playmaking attributes of someone like Jack Payne compared to someone like Luke Gutteridge. They've played a decent amount of minutes for us to sort of have an idea of what they're doing well and what they're doing, poorly. So, goals per 90 minutes. DeMeo, decent, obviously. Turnbull, Gutteridge, Jack Payne. Not quite so many goals. Fair enough. He's more of a creative player. And that really does show. 0.41 assists per 90 minutes compared to Gutteridge's there and DeMeo's there. Like, it's just not even... doesn't even bear thinking about. Jack Payne has got 6 assists in 15 matches. It's undeniable. I wouldn't mind seeing how well Elliot Osborne actually did do for us. If we could just... if we could just Google him. Elliot Osborne, Southport. We should be able to get at least his stats for us in that first half of the year. So in 22 games, he got 4 assists for us. So that to me says a lot. Like, Payne got 6 assists in 15 games. So I think he's definitely done better, and he scored goals. Pass completion, Gutteridge at 81%. Jack Payne is a little bit lower, but I'll happily sacrifice a little bit less pass completion with the number of assists he's got, frankly. It's undeniable. His chance creation, again, is much, much higher than Luke Gutteridge, too. What's that one? Cross completed. We don't really care about crosses completed. I shouldn't have put that one in there. Passes completed per 90 minutes. Again, look at that. Jack Payne, 73. They're happy to give him the ball. It's as simple as that. Whereas Gutteridge is down at 58. That is a lot more passes completed than Gutteridge. He's just getting the ball. His key passes per 90 minutes. Actually slightly higher for Luke Gutteridge, which is kind of interesting. But not like it's only a little bit higher. So, okay. Certainly interesting. No key tackles for Jack Payne, but he has won all of the tackles he's been up for, which is nice. Whereas Gutteridge actually hasn't, surprisingly. Interceptions. How's he doing on interceptions? Jack Payne, not so good at interceptions at all. Gutteridge is clearly much better at being a sort of bull in a china shop type of player, more defensively minded, I guess. I assume he's got quite decent tackling. Yeah, his tackling is decent. He's got good mental stats, which will definitely help him with that too. His positioning isn't great, but you could see why he's been better from a defensive standpoint of things when he has been called into action. Headers won. This would be kind of interesting. So, Gutteridge again, slightly more. Jack Payne's not super tall, is he? And I don't think Gutteridge is that. No, he's 5'9". Gutteridge is presumably 5'7". So he's diminutive lad, but he's winning a decent number of headers too. Fair to say. Headers won percentage, probably more important here. Jack Payne, 51. Gutteridge, 67. He's actually very good in the midfield. I'm guessing maybe got good strength. No. Jumping reach? Not particularly. No explanation as to why Gutteridge is winning so many headers, but he's doing a good job. Maybe he's just not going for many headers, but this would seem to suggest otherwise on that one. Team conceded per 90 minutes. Jack Payne, we actually conceded more goals with him in the team, but it's undeniable that we've won a lot of matches with him in the team. DeMeo does well. Gutteridge isn't that much lower, to be honest. It's fairly much of a muchness. DeMeo does cover a lot of ground, as you would do playing in that box-to-box role. Jack Payne, weirdly, has covered more ground than Gutteridge, even though Gutteridge has played in the box-to-box role more. I think it's just because Gutteridge doesn't have the stamina for that, really. Jack Payne has a higher average rating overall. I think he's just a better player in general. Like, he and DeMeo are the ultimate midfield partnership for us at the moment, and I'm really, really pleased with that. Gutteridge does have a driven personality and high determination, though, which means that as an influential player, we could get him into mentoring groups, and that could potentially allow us to boost some of our youngsters' stats. So that's kind of nice as well. Sorry, my throat's getting very dry. I've been talking for 40 minutes. I do apologise for this. So conclusions here, really, is that Payne and DeMeo, absolutely first choice in there. Gutteridge makes a fine sort of backup, but I wouldn't mind a youngster in there that could potentially do okay in there too, maybe. Because Gutteridge, if we could move him on in the summer, I will do. If we could get any money and get his wages off of our bill, I will be ecstatic with that, because we just don't need him at the moment, and I wouldn't mind giving a youngster some game time rather than having someone that's 37, going to be turning 38 next season in that role. So, what have we got left? We've got a striker, and we've got the two wingers. So we'll go to the wingers here. First, because this is quite an important one to see how well Sousa and, well, his ilk have got on. So we want attacking midfielders, central, off, and left and right sided. So players that have played minutes this year. We want Stevenson, Sousa, Warburton, Kirby, and a little bit of Callum Mantak, but we'll probably exclude Mantak because he's not actually started a game, so the stats are going to be a bit skewed. Now, Stevenson basically has no comparison, so I just want to see how he does. It's hard to say how he does in comparison to the other wing anyway, because he's an inside forward. He has a totally different job. His job is not to assist, although it appears he's done that just fine anyway, presumably by linking up with the striker rather than with crosses. But we'll take a little bit of a look at that as well. We just want to see how he's done. So Warburton, we'll just have a look at Stevenson. 30 goals this year, 10 assists. Assists per 90, you know, this is still bloody good. Chances created, like, he creates a decent number of chances. Kirby really does create a lot of chances. That's for sure. Warburton, very low on that one. Crosses attempted. We want the cross completion as well. And you can see that Warburton and Stevenson are down here because Stevenson isn't crossing the ball much. He's mostly passing it. Kirby, decent. Mantak, decent. Sousa, better than what was there before. Like, it's a massive step up over Warburton. Anyway, we're concentrating on Darren Stevenson at the moment. 67% passing is decent. Completes a number of passes, which is good. Key passes per 90 minutes. It's lower than all the others, but again, I think that's because he's just doing different types of things. His shots on target, 64% is good. Dribbles per game, it's fairly decent, but you know, you can't really argue with his output this year. I'm not going to be saying, oh, he's been rubbish. He's been our best player. He's been our player of the season for me anyway. He scored 30 goals and got 10 assists in 50 games. I think he's played every single match for us this season, and that is phenomenal. Do want to try and find a backup for him, though, potentially, because, again, I can't rely on the fact that he's going to play for us every single game next year. It's just not going to happen, is it? So, what we're actually interested in, really, is the other team on the other side. So, Kirby, the most. Warburton in behind there with goals per 90 minutes. And Sousa, the lowest. But he has got 7 goals. Warburton and Kirby have done well as well. So that's kind of interesting. Sousa, assist per 90 minutes. How's he do it? So he is the top assister per 90 minutes behind. So he's, I think Sousa, particularly as he's been aiming at the back post. When Kirby and Warburton were playing there, we weren't really doing that. So I think that's kind of unfair to say that Sousa's been better at that, because I think had Kirby and Warburton been crossing to the back post, they might have got more goals too. So we'll take that one with a bit of a pinch of salt. Chances created per 90 minutes. Kirby is very much a good chance creation player on that right-hand side. That's undeniable. I just didn't like the way he cut inside so much, although it clearly did create chances, whereas Warburton just isn't creating chances at all. Sousa's still decent on that one, which is fine. Cross completion, like we already looked at. Kirby, again, out on top with that, but Sousa up there as well. But Warburton, again, so far off the pace because he's not really a wide man, and I don't think he's got great crossing either. I think that was kind of the key thing here. 8 isn't that bad. He's just obviously got other attributes causing problems. He does have the best pass completion, which makes sense as he is mostly an attacking midfielder. But again, Sousa's not that far behind either. Kirby is a bit far off. So he's not linking up quite so well, and he does make less passes overall. Warburton generally makes a lot of passes because, again, he's just a better passer of the ball, so you can kind of link up with him a bit better. But key passes, where we really are interested in, Kirby again out in front, Warburton a little bit lower, and Sousa. Kirby is clearly a very good creative option on that wing. He's got good crossing. He's good at passing, good at creating chances, key passes. It's interesting. it does make you wonder if maybe Jake Kirby, a full season in that role, maybe we could train him out of the PPM of cutting inside from both wings and try to improve him on that position. And maybe, since he's a decent player, he could do a job for us on that right-hand side. Or maybe we could just look for a player that's got sort of Jake Kirby-esque stats that maybe has more potential to go a bit further in the future. But he still only is 24, and he does have a bit more potential to come as well. So, again, maybe there's options there. I think we're doing good in this position, but it's nice to see that Warburton just was not a good fit for that role. He just wasn't. Sousa was good, and Kirby looks like he could be even better given a chance, basically. That's why I'm thinking about this at the moment. And Stevenson is just an absolute legend. So finally, we're going to go to the striker analysis. Where are we? Striker analyses. I don't think I think I built the ones that were based around this tactic, essentially. Although we do have an AM one, just in case we use one, but we didn't, so it doesn't matter. And right, so strikers, it's really a case of Niall Bell versus Old and Bow. I suppose there's Mulhern as well, and Warburton kind of played there. Darren Stevenson definitely didn't. So minutes per game, Mbo, Bell, and Mulhern, I suppose. But we can kind of ignore Mulhern. It's really what Mbo and Bell did over the period of this. So goals per 90 minutes. Mbo, definitely out on top, but he's not super far out on top. It's not like so far out that you're like, this is completely obviously, you know, all about him here. Assists per 90 minutes. Interestingly, Niall Bell is a better assister. He's got 8 assists and 5 goals in his 11 starts. Obviously 22 sub appearances too. So this is what I mean about this team. Niall Bell mostly comes off the bench, which means most of the time we're sort of set in games. So, you know, there's that. And he has played a lot less minutes than Bo overall. But he's getting assists. He's linking up the play a little bit better. I do want to see if him actually linking the play a little bit more than Umbel, because Umbel and Bo might help us, because this is what I want to do next year. I want to have someone like Jaden Thompson-Brissett playing up front for us, perhaps, who is more of a deep-lying forward type of player rather than a big sort of target man type of player, one that's got a little bit of pace, some good passing to link the squad up a little bit and allow players like Stevenson and Kirby to flourish, and DeMeo, rather than being the focal point for all the goals. That's what I'm thinking perhaps for next season. So we'll see what chance creation is like. And Bo again out in front. Okay, so he's creating more chances per 90 minutes, but the players are actually getting on the end and putting away more of Bell's passes. That's fine. Cross completion. Bell completes a lot less crosses, but again, we don't know how many this is out of. Pass completion is very, very close between all of these guys, really. Only Darren Stevenson lacking, but he's not played in that role. So Bell and Mbo's actually got a higher pass completion, so that does make you think he's done a decent job of just holding the play up. Passes completed per 90 minutes. Again, he completes more passes too. And as you can see here, more key passes. So less assists, but he creates more chances, has better pass completion, and makes more key passes too. Maybe because he's winning some with his head. He's less shots on target, though. But more shots on target per 90 minutes. So there's that, and more shots per 90 minutes as well. And the headers one is undeniable. Like, he's winning a lot more headers. 46 to 31%, and just almost double the number of headers per game. So, but that might be because of the style of play we're using. If we were to have a slightly shorter and more diminutive striker, I would maybe try and play it out from the back a little bit and use some of the width instead, rather than just lumping it long and giving it back to our opponents. It might also help us keep possession a little bit more, but we would have to be a bit careful and probably not have a defender like Schmoll that can't pass the ball to save his life. We want to make sure we've got someone that's at least decent in that position to do that. Dribbles per game. Let's see. Bell, slightly better, but it's negligible again. Player of the Match awards, he's got a few of them. Bell clearly still has something to offer this team. That's what I would say. But his potential is definitely far less than Mbo. So with Jaden, and also we've got, you know, Thompson-Brissett as an option for next year. So it's between Bell and Brissett at the moment who's going to be up front for us next year. I really don't know. I would like to try and find another striker in the summer. This is where I'm kind of looking at the moment. So a centre-back, a defensive midfielder, first team quality ones, really. A backup youngster for the left-hand wing, left-back position for Duxbury, potentially another goalkeeper, and a striker. I'm happy with Darren Stevenson. I wouldn't mind a young understudy, and I'm quite happy on the right-hand side, but again, we can find loan players too. So that's kind of the conclusions that I've come to from this so far, and I think those are reasonable conclusions to make. But of course, do let me know your thoughts. Obviously, I won't be able to act on them because I'll have already done the transfer window episode, recorded it, that is, by the time you see it, but it's still interesting to know your thoughts. And if there's anything else you want to see in these videos, other screens you want me to show, everything like that, I might just quickly show you the finances while I talk about this. Do let me know in the comments, and I can use them for next season, because we're going to be doing these every year, unless you guys don't want me to. Oh, we're making a decent amount of money at the moment, aren't we? That's really nice. I wonder what our projections are like now. 2.73 million. That's good for the end of the next season. Because when I read this the other day, I accidentally thought that that was what we were going to get at the end of this season, and I was ecstatic. But of course, that's not quite how this screen works. So we're at the end of the video. We're about 50 odd minutes into this now. So yeah, there's that. Now, at the end of these videos, to make sure that you've actually watched the whole thing, I normally give you a keyword to put in the comments, and I've just found a pack of Tic Tacs on my desk. So today's word of the day, so to speak, is Tic Tactics. You know what I mean? That'll do for now. Anyway, if you have enjoyed this, do drop a like on the video. That would be smashing. And if you're new to the channel, and this, for some reason, is the first video you've chose to watch, then firstly, are you a masochist? And secondly, please subscribe. That would be awesome. And I'll join you guys in the next episode for some transfer goodies, where hopefully I've been able to act on the things I've just said. Or at least I've got it clear in my head, so I kind of have a more clear idea of what I want to do going forward. We've got about $5,000 in wage budget and £160,000 to spend. Maybe I'll come up with some gems. Maybe I'll sign some absolute crap. I guess we'll have to wait and see and find out. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.